Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Etinosa, what time is it for you in Nigeria?
It's 3 o'clock,
Three?
3 p.m., 3:01 p.m.
3.
Love to
Okay,
see it. Love to see
so
it.
not too
Okay.
horrible. Yeah, everyone, drop where you're tuning in from today. It was so awesome seeing where. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you. Oh,
Y'all
here
already
we
know the
go.
drill. I love to see it. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
This is amazing.
Namaste.
Austin, Peter, I hope y'all taking notes. We gotta go to some of these
Martinique.
places.
Oh my God.
I'm
Oh,
telling
hi.
you, the Caribbean, okay? The
Okay, okay.
okay, Iowa, okay,
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria.
Hola desde
I could do it.
Iowa.
I love it.
Hey,
Oh, Nairobi, Kenya.
Bulgaria.
I'm wearing my Kenya jersey.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Yes, the
love.
Fresh Caribbean is representing. I love to see it. We got a lot of folks from Lagos, Nigeria supporting the one and only. I'm
Yes.
so excited.
Hi, for worry.
Oh,
Hi.
Lori. Wow.
Hi.
Wow, that's
Well,
awesome.
as folks continue,
Hi, from
Joss.
hello, from
Yeah, keep
I
dropping
love
it in and tell us if this is your first time, second time, fifth time. We'll have a raffle giveaway. Just kidding.
You get a recording. You get a recording.
I know, right? That's why I
all the
immediately rescind it. No, just kidding. Something to think about. Rwanda.
London.
I love it. Whether it's
Wow.
your first time or fourth season, welcome to the Essentials. We are so happy to have you all here for our free photography classes. This is our fifth season, so that means we've had 4 prior seasons that you can go and replay on our respective websites. We also have them available in French and Spanish subtitles, translation. So welcome to the Essentials. This is day 2 of our packed weekend of just free, incredible insight from the best of the best. I just love it.
Yes. Who are you?
Oh yeah, I should probably say I'm Polly. I'm sorry. I'm Polly.
I
I have not had
everyone should know, but you know.
no, 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 no. I'm hi everyone. I'm Polly. I'm the founder of Black Women Photographers, and this is one of my favorite projects that we do each year with the credible Danielle of the Everyday Projects and the beautiful team that's running the things behind the scenes. So thank you all.
Yes. So as Polly said, my name is Danielle Viasana. I'm an independent photojournalist, but also a community team member of the Everyday Projects. And I 100% agree with Polly that this is something that I look forward to every year. It's so fun, so enlightening, so inspiring. This is what the Everyday Projects is all about. We're a global community of visual storytellers using photography to rise above persistent inequality and to combat harmful misperceptions in the visual media industry, because there's a lot. So, but yeah, so happy to be here. This is so fun. And then, just in case it wasn't, enough, clear, Black women photographers, baddest organization, doing the work every day. Polly, you're amazing. Did y'all know that she was like in Times Square at one point? Like, I mean, y'all, Polly's like amazing.
I,
Polly's speechless.
I don't like attention, but
I know. And I'm the worst
um,
at that. I'll be like, Polly.
everybody, if you take anything from this morning, because you should take more than this from this weekend, but if you take anything from our intros, get you somebody who hypes you up like Danielle, have somebody
Yeah.
in your corner that roots for you, that cheers for you, that wants you to win. Uh,
Oh, I'm just
that's all.
reflecting. I'm just reflecting the
Yes,
love.
yes.
That's it. And
But
speaking of love,
yes.
Photo Wings, big love to Photo Wings, who is our partner in producing the essentials, and we would not be able to do it without them. So thank you so much to Photo Wings. So much love for Photo Wings. Thank you for all y'all do. This is a little bit about Photo Wings here too. Very similar goals. So we're all just like working together to do the work. But yeah, here we are.
Here we are with day 2. Yesterday was an action-packed day, so if you missed any part of yesterday, don't worry. All the classes were recorded and will be made available in the coming weeks with French and Spanish subtitles translation. Today, we're continuing the series with some more incredible speakers who will touch on various topics. Each session will include lots of time for Q&A. So even if before Etinosa even begins presenting, like if you have a question for her because you've been following her work and her journey, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A. So don't be shy. No questions too small to ask. That's why we're here to gain insight. There is no room for gatekeeping in our respective organizations. So just drop your questions in the Q&A box, no matter what stage you are in your practice.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. But yeah, we're so excited. Etinosa, hello.
Hi, how you doing? I'm excited.
Yes. Polly, you want to
Oh my goodness. Oh, no
what do you
pressure.
call it? Do the
The
honors
intro. Oh my
of
goodness, yes.
introducing our first guest of the second day. It's always like so special.
I know, and I always feel so much pressure, especially when I love the people.
I know we
Etinosa, you
visited.
are incredible. It's so funny because I feel like so for context, like one of our projects that we did last time, um, was raising money for PPE. And I'm just like,
Yes.
like, yeah, like at the peak of the NSARS movement, and we just rallied the troops, and you just did so much groundwork on the ground to make sure your fellow photojournalists have protective equipment. You made sure everybody was secured as they documented the NSARS movement. And so that is just a little testament to the person, incredible character of Etinosa. But I will just do more justice and actually read your bio. And hopefully I cover enough of of what you are and do in this industry. So with that said, you are a visual artist based in Nigeria, utilizing various art forms, including photography and videography. Her work explores themes related to culture, religion, tradition, the environment, the human condition, and social injustice. She has received grants from National Geographic, Society Art X, and Women Photograph, as well as an award from National Geographic in partnership with Lagos Photo and the Royal Photography Society. In 2023, Etinosa was one of the 8 artists selected for the inaugural Advocacy and Arts Fellowship, a collaboration between CARE International and the Rockefeller Foundation. Her work has been showcased in biennales, I totally butchered that, sorry, festivals, museums, galleries, and publications throughout the world. So everyone, welcome one of the best to do it in this industry. And she will share everything that she knows about how to make long-term documentary work possible, from workshop ideas to getting started for grant support. She's just, achieving sustainability with long-term documentary work. Welcome, take it away, Etinosa.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Polly. And I must say that today is actually the anniversary of NSAS. So it's actually remarkable that today is the day I get to speak, which is since 2024 years after we did the fundraising. Thank you. It was lovely to work with you. We raised how many $1,000 in less than 24 hours. Well done, Polly. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen. Thank you very much for the introduction. I have 25 minutes to run through this presentation, and I'm going to make sure that I do not speak so fast, but I get to the point. Creating, funding, and sustaining long-term documentary work. Oh, shit. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So one of the first things that I was told when I started my career by a senior colleague was to focus on long-term projects, to focus on working on my own projects. And I'm so grateful that I took that advice. It's one of the things that has helped me over the years since I began my career in, let me say 2017 or 2018. I'm very happy to work on projects. It's something on a yearly basis, I'm always found working on a project. I am going to be speaking about this. My presentation would be around the project which I've been working on since 2018. It's called It's All in My Head. It explores the coping mechanisms of survivors of terrorism and instances of conflict and cruelty. And throughout this presentation, I will show you how this project has morphed and how all of these elements which has been highlighted, creating, sustaining, and funding, has been able to help make this project grow since 2018 when I began working on it. So back to my first point, I have my cards here, or should I say my paper here, which also has the same point. So sometimes I'm just going to move to the picture so you can also look at the image as I speak. One of the things I say here is be genuinely interested in the story. I think it goes without saying, if you don't have a genuine connection or interest in what you're doing, you might not be able to work on the project long term. When I started This All in My Head, it was just shortly after I had begun learning about photography. I said to myself, I want to do a project, but prior to that time, I'd been going to internally displaced persons camp and having conversations with them. But I didn't know, I knew I wanted to tell their story, but I wasn't sure in what way I was going to tell their story. And so when I had watched, when the idea for the project came, I knew I was going to work with these people that I had been having conversations with over time and say, okay, I'm going to do a project which looks at the state of the mind of the survivors. The aim of the project is just to advocate for increased access to psychosocial support for the survivors. This is a very heavy project, and to be honest, if I wasn't genuinely interested and connected to the story, I'm not sure I will have been able to follow through from even the very first month when I started working on the project. I was just saying to myself when I was rehearsing my presentation, how the very first time I had insomnia in my life was when I started working on this project. I had never experienced insomnia before, but when I started working on this project, I started to have insomnia because of the type of heaviness and the type of stories that I was coming across while working on the story. So I would say with working on long-term projects, you need to choose a topic. You need to know what is in my environment. What do I want to say? What do I want to talk about? And then secondly, research online and offline. I didn't do as much online research. One of the things I've known about the way that atrocities are reported in my country, there's always a talk about, oh, this is happening, the insurgency has happened, Boko Haram has attacked here, they're in displaced persons camp, but you rarely ever heard people talk about the impact of their mental health. So I knew that there was that vacuum that I needed to fill with this project, looking at the impact of these atrocities on the mental health of the survivors. One of the things I must say is that this project has morphed. Initially, when I started the project, I was going to look at the survivors of terrorism, but over the years, it has gone from looking at survivors of terrorism to survivors of conflict to survivors of acts of cruelty, whether it's witchcraft branding, whether it's torture, whether it's victims of gender-based violence. The project has now morphed into different things, but researching and learning about the subject matter that you want to work on is very important when you want to start a long-term project. You need to know who is doing what, who has said what are they saying, how are they saying, what is the different thing I can bring to this table about the subject matter that I want to work on. Then I look at story method. I highlighted some points here. The first point is always think deeply about the best way to present your story. I'm going to run through the point and then move to the pictures. But then as I move as I show you the pictures, then I'll highlight these points. And I say, be flexible, don't be afraid to try new things, reach out to people or organizations you can partner, be open to collaborations. If things don't go as planned, explore other options. When I got the idea, when I conceived the idea for It's All in My Head, I had a small jotter with me where I wrote down the name of the project. It's All in My Head, in bracket, exploring the coping mechanisms of survivors of terrorism. Like I said, it was just going to be focused on terrorism at the time. One of the things I decided to do was, how do I show this story? You know, I want people to, I know the conversations I had with people, and I didn't just want people to look at portraits of the people. I wanted people to see them and see through their pain. see through how they're struggling. Have they moved on from the things they witnessed, the atrocities they witnessed? If they are moved on, how are they moving on? And how I kept thinking, how can I build that connection through images and imagery? How can the audience, how can the viewer see the image and then see the state of mind? And I remember I was looking on YouTube and I saw something about double exposure in camera. And I was like, wow, I can do this. And I tried it out. And then I said, this is the method I'm going to use for my project. So that's how I actually started the using double exposures for this project. What I do now, I take portraits of the people versus objects that are visual metaphors for their state of mind. Then as we move on, as the project, the project is very focused on the emotions of people. No two persons can process things they have witnessed the same way. Two people can be in a situation, for example, an accident, but the way it affects person A is different from the way it affects person B. And so with dealing with emotions, it becomes harder to objectify or to symbolize or to put in a metaphor, in a visual metaphor. And it became increasingly difficult to showcase these stories through just layers of images. And I remember one day in 2018, I think it was October, I was traveling to continue working on this project. And I was having insomnia, and I just sat down in the room and I was like, how do I tell this woman's story? There was a woman I'd interviewed in August of that year, 2018. And I was thinking of how to share her story. And I knew that no two images, no layer of images was going to help me share that story. And I remember I heard the voice, a double exposure video. And I looked and I was like, nobody in the room. Who said that? I Googled it and I saw that something like that exists. And that was how I started to incorporate it in my project. So my project began to move from just having layered images, whether it's 2-3 layers of images, to also having a layered image versus a moving image, which we call double exposure video. And as time went on, as the work continued to be published, I observed that a lot of times in the publications would just ask me for the text and say, can you give us a short text from the people? And because if you work in editorial, you know that captions are very important. And I noticed that they'll take the story and then they'll share captions of the people's story, which is an excerpt. And I was like, well, I don't think this will work because the stories these people are telling me are as important as the images that people are looking at. And so in 2019, I told myself, I'm going to find a way of incorporating the story such that wherever the story is shown, wherever this work is shown, whether it's in the magazine or it's in an exhibition, both image and their stories are being shown. It's going to be treated with as much importance as the images of the people. And I was able to create this design and put the image. So the way I show the work now, you have the image and then you have the text, which are excerpts of my conversations, as well as a background story into what happened to the person. So it's always important when you are working on a project to think deeply about the best way to approach it. Be flexible. Don't be afraid to try new things. I know that when I started the double exposure video, a part of me was wondering, have you seen this before? Have you done it before? Let me just try. Even the text, I remember I wasn't sure how people will perceive the idea of me incorporating text. And over the years, I've been able to stand my ground to say, I want my work shown as text. I don't, wherever it is that is being shown, the text of the people, as well as the images of people must be shown. The text is as important, that's their stories as important as the pictures that are shown. So don't be afraid to try new things. And of course, over the years, this project has morphed. The project has gone from the 2D medium to the 3D medium. The image on the left happens to be my first attempt at trying out a 3D sculpture in 2021. I had just come back I'm going to come back to this story I'm sharing, but I just come back from a research I did with children who had been accused of witchcraft, looking at the impact of the accusations on their mental health. And all the stories that I heard, all the stories that were shared with me, I worked with children and adults, but with children, there was a helplessness I saw that I remember that was the year I almost lost my mind. Like mentally, I thought I was going to run on the streets because of the type of pain and the chaos and the meanness of humans that I saw. I saw a very dark side of humans. And I said, when I want to show this work, I don't want to show it as a 2D medium on the wall. I want people to be able to I want to bring in the presence of the children into this place. So I started to think, how can I incorporate sculpture, but retaining the same aesthetics as my project? So where you have the image of the sculpture as well as objects inside the sculpture. And so you see how you have the image of somebody versus objects inside. I wanted that for the sculpture. And it wasn't up until 2023, which was last year, I was finally able to achieve this. So on the left, that's a sketch of my work. And you see how by exploring new things, the work has morphed from the 2D medium to the 3D medium to all the many things that it has now become. I also talked about collaborations, be open to collaborations. UNFPA reached out to me in 2019 to ask if I was open to collaborating with them to examining the psychological impact of gender-based violence or women in conflict areas. At the time, I had been getting requests from people to say, oh, we want to work with you, we want to adapt this style of your project for our project, but I had been hesitant because for me, I think people were more interested in the aesthetics than the story. And beyond the story, for me, it's the process that it takes to create each image. It takes a lot mentally for me to be able to come up with metaphors and all of that. So when they reached out to me, I thought about it and I said, okay, we had the collaboration, which was eventually launched during the 16 days of gender-based violence in I think it was in 2020. That was when this research or collaboration was launched. So please, when you're working on projects, be open to collaborations, be open to when you are approached, be open to collaborations, but also, weigh what works for you. I turned down a lot of people before I eventually said yes to UNFPA because I felt like what they wanted to achieve aligned with the vision of my project. And I'm so glad I actually said yes to this collaboration because eventually this was what took my project to another place where it went from It's All in My Head is a project that explores the coping mechanisms of survivors of terrorism and conflict to It's All in My Head is a project that explores the coping mechanisms of survivors of terrorism, conflicts, and acts of cruelty. Because of this collaboration, I was able to open different sub-chapters, which I now worked on the following year, which was in 2021. So please be open to collaborations when working on long-term documentary projects. And then also in 2021, I also reached out to this organization. They're called BRC. I'll talk about our collaboration much later in my presentation, but I cannot stress how important collaboration is. The things I achieved last year during my projects and the final exhibitions that I had would not have been possible if I had gone to these states on my own, because I did the research in 2 states, had the exhibitions and all the activities planned out in those 2 states. I wouldn't have done it on my own because I don't stay in those places. I don't really know anyone there. But the collaboration took this project to another level. The collaboration now made me to see the essence of, how it made my project to achieve the very thing I'd always wanted it to be participatory, to be community-centered. That was what collaboration did for me last year. It helped me to be able to unlock new levels with this project that I had always desired for it, and even more than I had desired for it. So it's important that you open yourself up to collaborations, reach out to people when you want to work on your project, whether it's people from the community, reach out to people from the community, see who is working, if they are non-profits or they're individuals, who you think that their goals align with the goal of your project. It's not all projects that you need some of these things, but I would say to a large extent, collaboration really helps. I have seen that you can work alone and go far, but when you work with people like minds, it takes you even further. A good example is my collaboration with Polly some years ago when we did the fundraiser. If I had done a fundraiser, maybe nobody would have answered me, but having Polly share that fundraiser and having that Black women photo on it made a lot of people to donate to that fundraiser. So collaboration is really important, and I cannot emphasize it. But I would say protect yourself while collaborating, because I also had some experiences last year, not from these people, but from other people, someone that I tried to work with. So you need to engage, just follow your instinct and gauge what works for you and what is important for your project. I also talk about if things don't go as planned, explore other options. As with any project, things will not always go as planned, but be open, be flexible, and see what other options you have available to you. Now, when you have done your work, you've been doing your work, whether it's 1 month, 2 months, well, for me, I've been working on my project since 2018. So all of these things I'm telling you are things I'm condensing. You can see how I went from 2018 starting on my own, 2019 having collaboration with ENFA, 2021 having another collaboration. It has been a process. But when you start your project, you don't need to wait till you have had everything, all the collaborations, everything. Start with what you have. When I launched this all in my head, when I put it up on my website, and I remember I showed a senior colleague, and they said, what is this doing on your website? Go and get that. What is this doing on your computer? Go and get a website. I put it on my website. Thankfully, I applied for the Women Photograph Grant, and then I got it. Put your work out there. You don't need to wait till it's a complete project. I don't think there's any project on my website that is complete, apart from the ones that I know it's not long term. Others that are in progress are going to be in progress for as long as I say they're in progress. So don't wait till it's finished. Just make sure you have a cohesive body of work, something that says something, not just fine images or beautiful single images, but something that when you put it together, it can tell a story, and then put it out there. If you're not sure, if you're unsure of yourself, reach out to people, have a community of people. I am so heavy on reaching out to people because I did it a lot. I did it a lot, not just for people in Nigeria, even people outside of Nigeria. I would reach out to them. I would say, I love your work. I would like to share my work with you. What do you think about my work? And that I did all of this through Instagram. Whether somebody in the US or someone in Ethiopia, I was reaching out to people. I didn't know them personally, but I would just reach out to them and say, can you have a look? And then over time, you start to have it, some people that you tend to say, you know what, these people, can you reach out? Can you help me look at my work? So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to knock on doors. People are busy. Life is the way life is. So sometimes you reach out to people, they don't answer. It's not because they don't want to answer. It's just things are happening for them at the time. If you knock this door, they don't open, go to the next door and knock and see if there's anyone to answer you. Publish and promote your work. I talk about publishing and promoting your work, whether it's on your website, on your social media, publications, talk, presentations. Put your work out there. Be your cheerleader. Nobody is going to sing your praises more than you. You're the one who knows why you started the work, so you have to put it out there. You have to share it for the world to see. Your voice is important. It doesn't matter how many people have been doing a project. Your unique approach to that project needs to be seen. It needs to be heard. It needs to be felt. So put it out there as much as possible. Own it, own it, own it. I love to see my Nigerian Nollywood people, the way that they own their stuff. When they want to market the film, their marketing approach is so amazing. And I take a cue from them. I look at them and say, if they are doing this, then I'll do this when it's time to push I don't use social media so much these days, but when it's time to share my work, I'm happy to share it there. Because we're not in the days of before social media, when somebody goes to an artist studio and discovers them. You can social media has really taken that thing of waiting to be discovered somewhere. Make people discover you, put your work out there. If there are opportunities to speak. I'm going to say something that might be a bit controversial. Sometimes some of these opportunities do not have money attached to it at the onset. Be open to some, then as you grow, you can now start to say, you know what, I've done enough of the free stuff, it's time to pay me the money. But at the initial stage, and I say this at the initial stage, be open, weigh the thing, how does this benefit me? I recently got published on Harper's Bazaar magazine. They didn't talk about money, but it was okay for me. I just said, you know what, I want my work in this new audience. It's not every time that I talk about money. Like I said, it might be controversial, but to me, there are times that you have to weigh this thing. There's no one way to approach putting yourself out there. So you need to be flexible. Don't say, oh, they said we must always collect money when our work is published. Doesn't apply every time. Sometimes you need to gauge what works for you. Are you at the early start of your career? Okay, if you are just starting, this is the first project, you want eyes to see it. Maybe for the first 2-3 publications, you can put it out there. But as time goes on, you start to demand money. It took a lot for me to get to the point where I asked people for money to say, oh, you have to pay me for this work because this work did not do itself. I put in money to get it there. So if you want to use it because I'm also generating content for you, then you pay me. So it depends. You just need to sit with yourself and ask yourself questions, but don't be too closed up in this is the only approach I'm going to use to put myself out there. Now I go to sustaining your work. And my acronym for this is AAARR. Applying for grants is a topic on its own that can take 1 hour, but I'm going to run through all this point, then I'll go to grants. But applying for grants, I cannot overemphasize the importance of applying for grants. It has helped my work. Since 2018, I've gotten grants to fund my project. Up until last year, I got 2 grants for my project, 2 major grants for my project. So apply for grants, apply for the popular grants, apply for the unpopular grants. But before you apply, I always tell people, look at grants as investors. You're pitching your work and they want to invest in you. Don't just ask for money because they say, oh, we have 100K or 500K or 2,000 naira or $2,000 to give, and then you say, I'm going to apply. Ask yourself critical questions. This grant I'm about to apply for, how do I say, what do I need to say to convince these investors? Because they're basically investing in your work, that I actually need this money. I'm going to do the things that I said I need to do with this money. There's so much to say about grants. Grants help you for financing your work. Grants help you for sustaining your work, of course. They also help you to reach new audience. Having your work in a platform, for example, last 2 years, I was awarded National Geographic storytelling grant. That's a new audience for me. So just even them sharing it on their, on their page was something different. I would never have imagined that I would, be an explorer or get a grant from National Geographic, but I tried. I took the risk, put together my application, and I got it, and that helped me. That audience of people, whenever they put their work out there, different platforms have their own audience. They get to see your work. So grants help you even your work to get to a wider reach than you will be able to reach. Apply for residencies, exhibitions, photo festival, fellowship. Apply, apply, apply. I can't say this enough. My elder sister used to say I'm a serial applicator because I apply so much. I think over the last 2 years, I haven't applied as much. But I apply so much, sometimes it gets to me. I used to apply so much for a lot. My first residency was through an award I got in Nigeria from Artex in 2019. And then I got to go for the residency in 2021 because it was supposed to be 2020, then COVID happened and it was 2021. Going for that residency helped me see things from a different perspective. Going for that residency confirmed to me that I was not crazy. I stay in Abuja. It's not a very artistic state. Sometimes I have ideas, and because I'm not seeing it done in my place where I stay, I think maybe I'm crazy. Then I go to London and I'm like, oh, nothing is impossible. All of these ideas I have are actually not terrible ideas. Like, look at what people are doing with their works. Residencies are amazing. I cannot stress the importance of having that time, especially if we're not demanding the artists to ensure that they submit works before they go. You can come for research, you can go there and do whatever. It was like a free residency. It wasn't restrictive. It really helped me. Get the passport stamp on my, my passport could be stamped for every time my work has been shown, I think I would be a global citizen by now. But my work has traveled further than me because of the exhibition opportunities that have come through it. Some of them at the early start of my career, I will apply for some, apply, and then by applying, in fact, I remember in 2022, I was selected to attend, to show at the Berlin Biennale. A curator from a photo festival in London, Italy, saw my work. They reached out and they showed the work that same year in Italy. Then this year, they collaborated with a museum in Italy, and now my work is currently on view. These opportunities have a way that they open you up to more opportunities. So please don't be afraid to put your work out there. Apply for opportunities, apply for fellowships. So beyond the visual journalism space, there are also places, whether it's MacArthur and all of these places, that have funding for, some type of work. So go out there, look at their what do you call it, their website. What are they trying to fund? How does my work fit into their vision, their mission? What should I say in my grant that will make them fund my work? What fellowship should I apply for that would increase my capacity as a visual storyteller? Apply for opportunities, attend portfolio reviews. Portfolio reviews can be brutal, but portfolio reviews can be wonderful. Portfolio reviews helped me a lot at the start of my career. 2018, I went for, in portfolio review, I won the National Geographic, Lagos Photo National Geographic Portfolio Review. But before that, I attended some portfolio review with some academics. I lost my mind because all they were saying was so, high level for me, and it made me hate my work at some point. But as the years go by, I can see how it's all in my head has transformed because of some of the things I was told during the portfolio review. So portfolio reviews are actually very, very important. The video I showed about my project, the way that you're seeing it now is not the way it was when I first initially created it. It was during a portfolio review I attended in 2019 in Blink portfolio review. There was an editor there, and she said, there's something you're doing and this looks good, but it can be better. You need to work on the technical aspect of this video. And I came back home and I had to think, reviewed it, I reworked it, and now, the video is way better. And even every other thing I've churned out after that time is better than it was initially, like when I initially started. So portfolio reviews are good. You get, critical and constructive feedback. Some of them might not be useful to you, some might be useful to you. Take what you need to take, throw away what you need to throw away. But where there's an opportunity, please try to attend. You also get people to see your work, another set of audience that will see your work. They might not be interested as much in your project, but at least they will know that, okay, if I have this type of project, I can work with this person. So attending portfolio reviews will really help. Rest, rest, rest. I had panic attacks for the first time in my life last year because I worked on my project for 10 months. I would never do that again. That was hardcore stuff and it really affected me. Where possible, take a break. The project I work on is all in my head, is very heavy, and I noticed there was no way for me to separate myself from my project. And from this year till maybe the next 1 or 2 years, I'm not going to work on the project because I need a mental break from pain, from sadness, from suffering, from the kind of heavy subject matter I've been working on since 2018. When you start working on your project as you can, depending on what you're working on, it's not everybody that is going to work on sad stories. It's not everybody going to work on stories that are really heavy. You might not work on a heavy story, but regardless, where you think you need to rest, because the work we do is not just physical, it's mental. Whether you're working on, you're creating conceptual projects or whatever it is, it needs a lot of thinking and thinking and thinking. So where you need to rest, please rest. Reflect, think about how best to preserve your project. How do I want to keep this project? What afterlife do I have for this project? Do I want it in VR form? Do I want it in a book form? What do I want from it? Take your time to think about what you want from your project. I have some images I want to share with you. This is from my installation last year, and this was funded by National Geographic. I showed the work in 2 states. It's all in my head. You can see how it has gone from those pictures now to an entire, it has its own life that is living now. I have, some of the pictures, sound, so people can listen. It was fully immersive. We had video, audio, different forms of storytelling were used to be able to get people to be educated about the dangers and witchcraft accusations and the impact on the mental health. From It's All in My Head, I was able to have another research looking at the scars of people, children who were accused of witchcraft. How did they get these scars? What does the scar mean to them? Look at the sculptures here. This image in the middle, this is like a shrine that I put together to honor the lives of those who were accused of witchcraft. So I found images of people, their family members gave me the images and gave me a background story as to what happened that led to their death. We had a condolence register and a lot of people. In fact, the register became a feedback form for me. I got to read that register actually in April of this year because I was so overwhelmed last year. I didn't look at it. It was this year I saw the amazing, things that people had to say about people who had died as a result of witchcraft accusations. I also had, what do you call it? This is still from one project and from the funding I received. I had people, the people who had been accused of witchcraft. I had the image of the left is me and some of the people I worked with in that state in Calabar. We went to a resort. They had a 2-day retreat. We had psychotherapists come speak to them privately and as a group. The people on the right are all people who have been accused of witchcraft and their families. The 2 women at the side, the left and right, their mothers were killed as a result of witchcraft branding, and then the woman on the left was scarred as a result of witchcraft branding. So bringing them together, doing something that was very community-centered for me. It's one of the highlights of my working on this project so far. I also use drama performance. I'm actually a trained thespian, and I knew that to reach audiences that were not going to come into the exhibition, I needed to reach other people. And then we had a drama performance, monologue and drama full drama performance in different markets across different local government areas in the 2 states where I worked in. And so my last slide says, when do you end the project? Just like a writer putting together a book, as the author of your project, you're the only one who knows when you're going to end the project. No one can answer it for you. There are some projects I've done that I know that I've done it, they're beautiful, they are nice, and that's where it ends. There are some that I know, you know what, every few years I'm going to keep coming back to it. And then you might do a project and think, you know what, I've ended this, and then later you come back and you're like, you know what, I think I should revisit this again. But this is what happens when you rest. The more you take time to rest, the more attention that you can pay to, you can pay on, what do you say now? You can see your work from a different perspective. So when the end of the project is, it's not an answer that anybody can give to you, only you, the owner of the project, can know that. As much as possible, I cannot emphasize the need for applying for grants. Apply, apply, apply. Have a second eye, read through your grant applications, know how to say the first things first and the last things last. Be as descriptive and as visual as possible when you're writing your grant application. That is the end of my presentation. I think I did my 25 minutes.
Whoa. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, Etinosa, I know you, I follow your work, but I am just like, that installation is incredible in all the ways that your project has evolved and morphed over the years to sculpture and these incredible multi-dimensional installations. I mean, wow, you are incredible. And I just want to reiterate, and please take a second. The comments are just like flowing in. You're self-taught. Everyone, Etinosa is a self-taught photographer. And you, I remember when I saw your project for the first time, you just like, you busted onto the scene and you have just been all can't stop, won't stop since then. And there was a moment in your presentation and people were commenting in the chat too, where it was just like, boom, 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 like 50 pieces of like amazing advice. We take notes of like quotes, you know, of like that people are saying. And I like couldn't keep up. I mean, it was just like boom, boom, boom. So, wow. Thank you so much. That was incredible. Please take some time with the chat. It's like it's still going. It's still going. Can't keep up. But we have a lot of questions to get through. We do have a lot of time, so that's great. But I just wanted to jump right in. I myself need to know. Oftentimes with long-term projects, we face all kinds of rejections, you know, whether that's from editors or grants or even people we're trying to reach out to photograph or organizations we want to collaborate with. So I need to know, because you've dropped like a million pieces of amazing advice, how do you stay motivated during those times in, you know, long-term projects where you just feel like it's not working, nobody's paying attention, and because right, it's all about raising awareness and trying to get those stories out there. So those times when you just feel like it's just not flowing, how do you stay motivated? How do you keep going with your work?
Thank you very much. It's the reality for everybody. The project behind me is a project I call Unboxed. I started that project in 2019. I didn't like the visuals. I stopped it. I restarted it in 2020. So far, when I showed it in London during my open studio, I had people gain interest. In fact, it's just one platform that went from being interested in it to actually showing it. That's Exposure Photo Festival in Malaysia. I had a lot of people show interest in the work, but then they asked me certain questions and then I answer, and I noticed they lose interest. Some people had outrightly said, why don't you incorporate this particular aspect to the project? And I said, no, I'm not going to do it that way. I will do it how I want to do it, because it's my project, it's my vision, and I know why I started the project. For me, I think what happened last year was an eye-opener for me, and this is where ownership comes in. The reason I start to do a project is because I find something I'm genuinely interested in. I think I want to shed light on this thing. And yes, I'm open to hearing ideas here and there, but when people try to control a narrative, I will vote. And that's why instead, if I'm trying to find funding for the work, I've tried to push the work. It hasn't been successful. But guess what? I'm going to revisit it when I have enough money, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm going to show the work to the community. I think for me, beyond showing my work outside the country and traveling and doing all these amazing things, it's about the people I'm doing the work for. How am I representing them? How am I telling their stories? Are they connected? Are they benefiting? And is the wider, population gaining from that thing I'm saying? So for me, if I have reached out to people, I'm using this project as an example because it's a project I've tried to push that has not worked. But I've said to myself, you know what? When I have enough cash, because so far I've been funding it, but when I have spare money, I'll come back to you. I will do you the way I want. I will show you the way I want to show you. I'm going to take time. The way that I want the project to develop will come from my conversations with the people, not just through people trying to influence the narrative I'm trying to put out there. So for me, I think it's just knowing what you want to achieve with your work. And yes, the rejection comes, but I think I'm also someone who has not really reached. I think the people that have seen the work so far have been more artists and galleries and all those art people. For editorial, I've not really pushed it. I'm not someone, the few times I've tried to reach out to editors I remember before I started, it's all in my head, I reached out to an editor, and the minute I said the idea, they just twisted the way that they wanted to approach it. And I was like, you know what? I think I'll keep doing my work by myself. I like the way I've been approaching my work, the growth that you have seen with this project came because I took my time on the work. If I was going with what the editors want, so an extent, once they publish, that's where it ends. And that's not why I'm doing the work. I'm not doing the work because I want it to be published. I'm doing it for the things that I'm trying to highlight in my society. More importantly, the people that I'm working with, I want to share their stories, and I want the wider audience. I'm always saying now that I've seen that there's a way of using art and our storytelling for education. Whether it's for education, it's for entertainment, it's for expression, it should be the way that I want it to go based on my communication and the bond and the things that I'm learning from the people I work with. So external forces like editors who are fantastic to work with, lovely, but if you don't key into my idea, that's okay. I'm going to take my work somewhere else, or otherwise I'll fund it by myself and do it the way that I want. Thank you.
Yes, I'm here for all of that. I'm just like nodding my head, like, yes. I'm gonna dive into some of the questions in the Q&A box. You mentioned that, you utilize like YouTube University, but what other resources were helpful in teaching yourself photography? And then also second part, because you mentioned how writing is also very key to the work that you do as a storyteller. So how did you get better with your writing? Any resources? And somebody out here asked, were there anything that you like suggested readings that helped you understand how to write about your own work? Because it's not always easy to translate like what's up in here into writing. And so if you have any advice or readings on how to not only just like get better with your craft visually, but also in writing form. And then there was another part to that question about personal statements, how you crafted your personal statement when you were applying for grants.
Okay, I just wrote my personal artist statement for the first time ever 2 days ago, I think, because I'm submitting an application. And it's something, I have my bio, I always run away from talking about myself, but I have to confront myself and say, sit down and write this statement. And I wrote it, and it's a true reflection of who I am as a person. And funny enough, I saw an article 2 days later. And the things I said in that article 2 years ago were things I wrote in my statement, and I had not read the article. So it truly means that I've stuck on my vision for what I want out of my career. I would say with artist statement, what I do is look at, artist statement samples. I would download and read the artist statement of other artists. What are they saying? How are they saying? Okay, let me read about how to write an artist statement. Oh, you need to avoid jargon, talk about yourself, make sure you're explaining yourself. I read all of these things. Then I look at how this artist, this is how she wrote about her work. Do I understand what she's saying? Okay, now I scribble. I use Google Docs a lot for my scribbling. It's my virtual scribbler. And then I type. I don't delete anything when I'm typing. I take it down, because that thing that looks useless, at some point, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Then I bring it up and I arrange it. So I end up scribble, and then I arrange. I'm like, okay, this looks good. Then I have, you know, after I wrote my statement, I have a friend who is, I call her professor. She's a PhD. She's currently doing her PhD. I said, can you help me review it? Because I know she has that very academic eye that she would use to help analyze what I've written. And she's like, oh, this is perfect. Just take out this and that's all, you know. And so a lot of times I read that, look at what people have done. And of course, you cannot copy someone's artist statement because their vision is not your vision. So yours is just to understand the arrangement of what they are saying. And different people with different approaches to writing artist statement. There is no one way to write about it. I would say YouTube has really greatly contributed to what I've known, but on-hand experience, on the field experience has also helped. Going to the field, learning, making mistakes, trying it again, then having conversations with senior colleagues. I used to have unofficial mentors. The mentorship is not the one that I'm just saying you're my mentor. It's asking questions. When I reach out to them to stay in touch. When I have questions, I say, do you have a few minutes? I'd like to ask you this question. I'd like to ask you that question. And like I always say, it doesn't have to be people in your country. It could be someone somewhere. Some people might not answer you, and that's okay because people are busy. But then the one that opens the door, don't take advantage of that door. Just ask the questions you need to ask. They give you the feedback, and then you move on. So to a large extent, YouTube has helped me reading books, reading different articles online about this. I would say B&H Photo helped me so much. B&H Photo, they have what do you call it, workshops they organize. So I used to watch their videos a lot when I started. I would look at this workshop. Some of them, I'll watch them over and over again, hear them talk about their self, how they grew, they started. I'll watch it, I'll say, wow, this is nice. Then also learning about art too, because art is closely, I mean, photography is the medium of art, but there's so much you can learn about art. And then going for example, whenever I'm outside Nigeria, I go a lot for exhibitions because seeing that opens up my mind. It opens up my mind to all the possibilities that exist in terms of the way that we are disseminating the work that we create. So going for exhibitions, workshops, they have also helped. Yes, you have to go for workshops. Now, when it comes to writing, I used to be a copywriter. I have a background to an extent. In my final year in school, I also studied playwriting. So I would say I'm a fairly good writer right from time. And I also tried to start a travel blog. So I've always known how to write. But then with grant writing, it takes a lot of, you know, I remember the first grant I got from Women Photograph. There's an article, and I used to share the article a lot to people. I read it to and like back and forth to see how, you know, they interviewed different people and they talked about how they applied for grant. And I read all the things they were saying. And I said, okay, so this is how I'm going to arrange what I say, arrange what I say, arrange what I say. You want to learn how to write grant writing articles, how to write a grant writing for artists, grant writing for photographer. How can a photographer do a lot of keywording, change your keywords, read as much as possible. I read so much. To be able to get one sentence, I can read 20 articles just to be sure, because I can be very meticulous actually. Read as much as possible, ask questions. Don't be ashamed of asking questions. I don't believe, I mean, we might say it as a joke, oh, that's a silly question, but I don't really think there's anything like a silly question. Ask questions, read, educate yourself. You don't know. I started a new project, and for me to understand religion, I had to buy a book, and I'm going to buy many more books. Why? Because it's a project I'm not sure. I don't really know much about this particular subject matter I want to look at. So be open to reading. And by reading, you know, there are words that you might learn that you write it down and you say, okay, so this is like the buzzword around this subject matter. And yeah, just basically keep reading online, offline, having interactions with people, attending workshops. Those are some of the things that can help.
Wow, I can't keep up with the golden advice you're dropping, Etinosa. And we talked about it yesterday about channeling like all these I'm like, channel your inner Etinosa, everybody, because if you ever doubt yourself, just remember what she said. So we have a lot of questions that are similarly themed. So this is going to be a like the question Polly asked is going to be like a 3-tiered question. But so people are really interested in knowing, when you come up with a project, how do you find people that are affected to participate with the project? So first off, how do you find people, especially when you can't find NGOs to help? Then how do you approach the sensitive topic and get people to trust you? And then once you get people to trust you, how do you deal with navigating dealing with the heavy emotions of other people? Like you talked about how you the R, which I love, by the way, rest and reflection and taking time off. So you talked about dealing with your own secondary trauma. But how do you, in those situations when you're interviewing people and or whatever, how do you help people navigate their own emotions? So it's a 3-part. So again, to recap, how do you find people, especially when you don't have others to help you find people? How do you approach them? How do you approach a sensitive topic? And then how do you deal with navigating the heavy emotions of the people you're photographing?
Okay. So start with finding. When I started, it's all in my head. I knew that the people that I want to speak to are I'm going to see them in an internally displaced camp because I've been going there. And so I went there. I went there a couple of times. Obviously, they were not taking me serious. I was about to give up when I started the project. I'm not going to lie. And I was very broke. I probably had less than what in today's Naira value was less than what now? $10 when I started that project. It was really a time of my life when I was really poor. And I was frustrated because I have this little money and I keep going and then they are busy and they don't really want to talk. And I can't blame them. They have people who come in there, take advantage of them and then move on with life. So of course they have to protect their territory. And so it was on the day that I was like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't do this project because nobody really wants to answer me. And one man saw me and said, come, you always come here. What do you want? And then I explained myself to him. And he told me he's looking for a job. And I said, who are you? Tell me your story. And then he actually happened to be an internally displaced person from Borno. He had been displaced by the Boko Haram insurgency. And then I told him, okay, I'm working on this project. Would you like to participate? He said, yes. And he was the first person I photographed. And then after he said, I can take you around the camp to show you other people. And he actually became the person who, was my translator during that phase of the research. So when I started this project, I wasn't working with any NGO. I go to the place where it's happening. I have gone to different parts of Nigeria that when I come out of there, I say, girl, how did you go there? Because I don't know anyone there. I don't speak the language. There was a place I went to, very interesting. The elderly man, I didn't speak English and he speaks only Hausa. And I just said, Chief. And he's like, okay. So, and he takes me to a place, he stands there, speaks Hausa, and before you know it, he waited till the chief came to see me. This man doesn't speak English. I didn't know anybody there. I just went there to tell them, and I explained myself. I remember when I finished, I went, look for him, I bought bread, and I said, Baba, now go there. I was very grateful. So it's not all the time that when I started my project, I didn't know, I didn't work with anybody. The project on men, how did I meet them? On the road. Oh, you look good. How you doing? My name is Etinosa. Oh, I'm working on a project about men. Are you interested? Some of them like, no. Someone like, what is it about? I say, okay, don't worry, give me your number. I'll call you later to talk more. And then we start to talk. So it's not a one-size-fits approach. It's not, this project, like I said, it's all in my head, is in chapters. So different chapters have birthed different parts of it. There are chapters where I've worked with people, and for the most part, I've been on my own working on this project. I didn't know anybody. I just went to the field, ask questions, and be as transparent as possible, be sincere. I go there. When I started the project, I didn't have images to show, to say this is what the project looks like. But then I remember when I took the first set of pictures, I printed them out and I took them to the place. I say, I see the picture. And what I'll do sometimes, I'll show them the back of my screen, the LCD, and say, look at the image I created. That was when I was creating the images like there and then. As I evolved in the project, I started to take time to really think about the metaphors and not just putting them together. But I'll print the images and I'll show them. I'll say, my name is Etinosa, I'm a photographer. This is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. First and foremost, I look for like the head of the community. If it's a project in a community, I'm looking for the head of the community, introduce myself, explain in details, be as clear as possible, be as honest as possible. Let them know, I'm going to use your images on my website. I'm going to put it, this is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is what I hope to achieve with this project at some point. And then that transparency, they say, okay, we'll delegate somebody. Okay, this person will follow you to this place. This person will be the one that will take you around in this community. So it's not every time that sometimes you know where your story is, go there and ask questions, go there and knock the doors. It might be hard. Sometimes you might want to give up. But most times when I want to give up, that's when the thing always happens. There are times I've gone to a place and I'll stay there for 2 weeks, nothing will happen. and I don't have money. That's initially before I started to get funding for my project. And it is on the last day that I say, let me go home. Nothing is happening. They'll say, madam, come. You can start coming. We're going to start our interview today. And that's how it happens. So you just need to keep going, knocking, be patient, be honest. I think honesty goes a long way. And then where possible, give prints. You see that giving print, it opens doors. It's a small act of kindness, but it's a door opener. Just giving people their print to say, this is what you look like. They are so happy. The research I went to do in Oshun this year, I sent my printer from Abuja. I sent those, in fact, they saw me as their photographer by the last day. They say, yeah, photo, yeah, photo. Like they will tell me, come and take me a picture. They were already used to me because they know that once I take a picture, I'll give you your print. And they say, I won't pay money. I said, no, you're not paying money. Don't worry, I'll take a picture. You look very beautiful. It opens doors. It's such a small act of kindness, but it does open doors. Yes, it costs me money, but it's me investing in my project. And I'm being as honest as possible. I think honesty and transparency is very important. Then approach. I'm not sure what the question is about approach. What was the question about approach?
Well, just really quickly, we have so many people working behind the scenes to make sure everything flows super seamlessly. And someone mentioned that if you end your presentation, stop the share screen, that everyone will be able to see our beautiful faces better.
I'm sorry.
No, all good. I didn't even notice because I was all like, wow, I didn't notice that. But yes, it's true. Now everyone can. Polly, we have a lot of questions. We've got about 9 more minutes, but Polly, I know we've got a lot of questions lined up still. Oh, and Etinosa, you asked the second part to the question, which was once you find people, how do you navigate dealing with people's really heavy emotions? And then Polly, I know we've got like a lot more questions.
I think it's just to listen and be a good listener. Be empathetic. And I don't know, I have some rules I set for myself. Like, I'm not the person that when I'm interviewing or having conversations with someone, I like to say conversations instead of interviews because I don't have written questions. When you're crying is when I want to take picture of you to show the world that you're crying. That's not my style. When you're crying, I give you moments to cry. Last year, I cried. In fact, there's no year that I work on this project, I don't cry. In fact, there was one that we had when I was working in UNFPA. It was like a crying session. The woman started crying. I started crying. The translator, we all cried and cried till we're tired of crying. It was so heavy that all of us cried. And we finished, we just sit down there for a while. Like, okay, we're good. There's no, just be there, be present with them. Don't be so fixated. Unfortunately, I work with journalists who work on certain stories, and the mindset they have when they're coming to the feed is what they stick with. They want to see this, they want to see that. They are not really looking at what the people have to say, but what they want to achieve. So don't be that person. Listen, like, be there, present in their space, be present. It doesn't matter how the space looks like. It might not be your beautiful house. It might be a very beautiful house, whatever it is. Listen to them, be present, and then where possible, ask questions. Like I said, I don't have written questions that I ask. I just let it flow. So far for my projects, I've never had written questions. It's just a conversation. They say something and I draw something for me and I draw something for her and we'll continue talking. So, be present, be there. Like I said, be transparent about what you hope to achieve with the project. If you're still figuring it out, tell them I'm still figuring it out. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, but I'm figuring it out. Be as transparent as possible. It's very important.
No, that is all such good advice. And I even love what you said earlier about bringing the folks back their photos and giving them printed copies. Just like you said, it's just all about this like human empathy and connection. I know one of our members, when she had a free portfolio with us, when we were doing a round with the New York Times, after the story was printed in the New York Times, she went back and gave them a copy of the article. So it's just like those different human moments that it's not like you said, you're just going there and using them and then they'll never hear or see you from again. As Danielle mentioned, there's so many good questions here. So I'm gonna give you another like 5-parter. Just trying to just tackle all of these common threads. So your project has seen so many different iterations as it evolved, as you applied for different, grants or exhibition opportunities or whatever. Did you utilize the same application for each time you applied to something? Or how did you change it up? Like, what common mistakes did you think you made when applying for opportunities, and how did you fix those mistakes? And then also, somebody also asked, this is like another long one. When you are, getting that negative feedback, you mentioned like how you saw an editor doing a portfolio review and they had a different vision from your own. How did you deal with that feedback, beyond like, okay, you know what, this is my vision, I'm just gonna go and continue my vision? What advice do you have for like taking that criticism or actually incorporating that advice, if that makes sense?
Okay, take criticism. I'm not someone who's just saying, "Oh, I know this. This is my vision." Blah blah blah. No, the things that I feel are not necessary, but sometimes I actually sit down and reflect. What were they saying? I had a lot of advice during the portfolio reviews I attended. Some of them at the moment felt, like an attack. But then when you go away from that space, 2 weeks down the line, when you sit down and reflect, maybe they're not attacking me. Maybe, oh, okay, this actually makes sense. Okay, I think sometimes at the moment, your ego is the one fighting. These people don't know what I'm saying. They don't know the stress I go through in the field. That's why they can sit here and tell me like this. But then when you have stepped away from that situation, it starts to make sense. Some advice, some of them is just like, to the left, well, trust this advice, I don't need it. But for some, it takes time, and the more that you ponder on it, the more it makes more sense. Some people can be mean, some people are just really, don't try not to take it personal. It's hard. My first portfolio review, I almost gave up on my project. These were hardcore academics that were saying so many things and I was just like, what are they saying? I hate this project. I'm never going to work on this project again. Like, but then it was that advice that made me realize my project was, apart from at the time, the image of Hajara Abubakar, which was the first image I showed at the talk, other images were not technically, they were not making sense. And so it was after that, it was like a year after, I became a bit more intentional in the way I was creating the images and saying, you know what, I don't need to create an image, say, oh, are you happy or sad? Oh, what can I use for sadness and photograph? No, I take my time. I started to take my time. But it took me a while. At the time when they were talking, I was so upset. But then later, I can see how that advice helped me, and it's playing out in my work now.
Is
So
that also,
sometimes,
I'm sorry.
oh,
No, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I want to say, what is the second question, actually? The first question.
No, I mean, the first part was, when you were applying and you like,
Yeah.
what mistakes do you think you made, and how did you approach your application each time when applying for new opportunities?
So I don't use one template of application for all my applications, because what this funder is looking for, why they want to fund your project, is not why Black women wants to, photographer wants to fund your project, is not the reason why Nigeria wants to fund your project. So you need to think of the vision and mission and all those fine words that they use. So it's different things. And of course, my project has evolved over the years. So I look at, I've been working on my project in chapters. So maybe this chapter, Women Photograph funded the chapter on violent conflict. Nigel funded the chapter on witchcraft accusations. Another platform will fund the chapter on my collaboration UNFPA, although I didn't apply for it, was on the chapter of GBV. So different chapters. So you keep refreshing the application. You can't just use the blanket approach and say, this application, I'll use it to apply for everything. No, because you might miss the tiny details. I know how I perused the Nigel site when I was applying. I kept thinking, they say their mission is this. How does this align with our mission? Then I'll go to their mission page. What is their mission? How does my work align with this mission? How do I say this mission? Okay, how do I craft it in a way that it highlights, it shows that it's in alignment with their mission? So you cannot use that one application. And of course, as your work is growing, your thoughts about the way I can write an essay about it all in my head. Why? Because I spent 5-6 years working on the project, but I couldn't at the start of the project. So as you're growing on the projects that you're working on, because we're talking about long-term documentary work, your thoughts, your ideas about the project are changing. So then you start to refine it as you're applying. And then of course, when you don't get an application, sometimes I don't know if it's call it mistake. When you're applying for an opportunity, like 5,000 people are applying for that opportunity. And unfortunately, it comes down to the 10 people they can give monies to. And it's not because you made a mistake. It's just because they cannot give 5,000 people. They only have grants for 10 people. So it might be that there's a mistake, or might just be that keep trying, keep knocking on doors. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. So it's just, it's only one way approach.
Yeah. Something you mentioned earlier is the importance of collaboration. So what do you look for when finding collaborators? And then how do you protect your ideas and intellectual property when collaborating with others, when you're sharing your ideas?
Oh my God. You see, the protection is important. I had a serious situation last year. NDA, do it. I drafted an NDA this year for my new project. I don't want wahala, as we say in Nigeria. I don't want someone to come and tell me, oh, you don't know anything. I'm the one with this project. Sign the NDA. It's my project. It's my name written on it. I own this project. I learned from my mistake last year. I had an issue where it felt like someone was starting to drag my work with me. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Last I checked, it's my name on this project. So where necessary, if you need NDAs, sign NDAs. Don't just say it in verbatim. Oh, I own this project. No, let's have a writing. Let's sign. Let's put dates on the signature. Let's have it. You have your sign and I countersign, and we each have our copy. When you are approaching, well, I would say the people I collaborated with, the organizations, they're amazing people. And at no point was the collaboration. There is a legal firm and a non-profit helping children and vulnerable children and women. So they cannot come and claim arts project and say that it's an art institution. But I would say when you're working with people in your space, your colleagues and all of that, that's when I would say you need to be a bit more careful. Please protect yourself. Sign NDA. If you need to, I paid lawyer. Let me draft an NDA. Sign. Just be sign. Read it. If you're not okay with it, don't sign. Just give me back my NDA. I'll find someone else to work with. Protect yourself, because things like that can happen. And it can happen and it can take you by surprise. So you need to protect yourself and be ready. The person that you're talking to, it's when they realize, sometimes when the project starts to get big, people might want to start claiming ownership of your project. So as much as possible, please, on the legal side, take care of the legal side as much as possible, especially when you're working with people in your industry. Artists, other these things, protect yourself.
Wow. Etinosa. So someone just put in the chat, this talk has no waste. OMG, every advice is better than the other. And I was like, my thoughts exactly. This has been just like one piece. I mean, you packed in so much wisdom, advice, golden nuggets. Like, I wish we could take just like a 15-minute breather break for all of that to just settle in, because you are amazing. You shared so much with us. We're so appreciative for your time, for your wisdom. This has been amazing, absolutely amazing. And you are amazing. And thank you so much for your time. You covered an incredible amount of ground. I think anyone could just watch your class if they're like, okay, how do I get from like A to Z? Just do what Etinosa did.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we are out of time for questions, but listening to you speak today, I know if anybody wants to reach out to you, I'm sure you would be an open book and happy to hear from them. So I'm just gonna throw that out there, even though you're looking at me like, Danielle, I did not tell you you could offer my time. But
Okay, I mean, I try to when I can. I know these last
yeah.
few days are busy, but yeah, I try to when I can. I like to, especially for grants. I can say that there are two people that have helped. That I help people look at their grant, but I'm so proud of some people that I specifically like took time to look to, and they got the grants. And like it made me happy. I was like, okay, this makes me happy. So I try to as much as possible. It's just that this hustle that we do sometimes means we don't have time. But yeah.
Whew, for real. But thank you again so much. You have been amazing. Thank you for kicking off the second day of the Essentials on such an amazing, positive note.